A story of betrayal, resilience, and the sweet taste of justice. Asterisk, asterisk. My name is Margaret Rose. And at 73 years old, I never imagined I'd be standing in the cold rain, locked out of my own home by my daughter-in-law. But that's exactly where my story begins, shivering on my front porch, watching through the window as Eleanor packed my belongings into boxes, like I was nothing more than an unwanted tenant. Asterisk, you see, dear friends, life has a way of teaching us lessons when we least expect them. I've lived through 7 decades of joys and sorrows, raised 4 children as a widow, and built a life I was proud of. But nothing prepared me for what happened when my youngest son, Harold, brought Eleanor home as his bride. Asterisk, it started innocently enough. Harold was 42, a successful accountant who'd never married, and I was delighted when he finally found someone. Eleanor seemed charming at first, a petite woman with auburn hair and green eyes that sparkled when she smiled. She was 38, divorced, with no children of her own. I welcomed her with open arms, eager to finally have a daughter after raising 4 sons. Asterisk, the first few months were wonderful. Eleanor would visit every Sunday, bringing fresh flowers and homemade cookies. She'd sit with me on the porch listening to my stories about the old days, nodding sympathetically when I talked about losing my dear husband, Robert, 20 years ago. I thought I'd finally found the daughter I'd always dreamed of. Asterisk, but people aren't always what they seem, are they? Asterisk, if you're enjoying this story of family drama and ultimate justice, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these deserve to be shared with others who understand life's complex relationships. Asterisk, asterisk, the changes began subtly. Eleanor started suggesting that my house was too big for one person, that I might be happier in a smaller place. She'd mentioned how Harold worried about me living alone, how they could keep a better eye on me if I moved closer to town. At first, I brushed off these comments, but they became more frequent, more insistent. Then came the day that changed everything. I was in my garden, tending to my roses, the same roses Robert had planted for me on our 10th anniversary. The sun was shining, and I was humming an old hymn when I heard voices from inside the house. Eleanor and Harold were in my kitchen, and their voices were raised. Curious, I moved closer to the window. Asterisk, she's getting too old. Harold, Eleanor was saying, look at this place. It's falling apart. She can barely maintain it. Asterisk, but it's her home, Eleanor, Harold replied, though his voice lacked conviction. Asterisk, our home, Eleanor corrected sharply. This will be our home someday. Why should we wait until she's dead to start living our lives? We could put her in Sunset Manor. It's a nice facility, and we could visit on weekends. Asterisk, my blood ran cold. Sunset Manor was the nursing home where my neighbor Dorothy had been placed by her children. She died within 6 months, heartbroken and alone. I pressed myself against the wall, straining to hear more. Asterisk, I don't know, Eleanor. Mother's always been independent. She raised us 4 boys single-handedly after Dad died. She's stronger than you think. Asterisk, stronger? Eleanor laughed bitterly. Harold, she's 73 years old. She fell off that step stool last month trying to reach the high shelf. What if she'd broken her hip? What if she died alone in here? Is that what you want? Asterisk, I heard Harold sigh deeply. What are you suggesting? Asterisk, I'm suggesting we take control of the situation. I've been doing research. If we can prove she's no longer competent to live alone, we can get guardianship. Then we can make decisions for her own good. Asterisk, my heart pounded so hard. I thought it might burst. My own son, the boy I'd rocked to sleep, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose homework I'd helped with. He was discussing my fate like I was already dead. Asterisk, but how would we prove incompetence? Harold asked. Asterisk, leave that to me, Eleanor said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Ha, I have some ideas. Asterisk, I crept back to my roses, my hands shaking as I pretended to prune the bushes. For the first time in my life, I felt truly afraid. Not of dying, I'd made my peace with that possibility long ago, but of losing my independence. It's my home, my dignity. Asterisk, the next few weeks were a nightmare. Eleanor began visiting daily, always with Harold in tow. She'd point out things that needed repair, suggest that I looked tired or confused. She started moving things around in my house, claiming she was helping organize. But I knew she was trying to make me feel disoriented in my own home. Asterisk, one afternoon, she went too far. I came home from grocery shopping to find her in my bedroom, going through my jewelry box. She was holding my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one I'd planned to leave to Harold's future wife. Asterisk, Eleanor, what are you doing? Asterisk, she didn't even have the grace to look embarrassed. Oh, Margaret, I was just admiring your beautiful jewelry. This necklace is exquisite. It must be worth a fortune. Asterisk, it belonged to my grandmother, I said, reaching for it. It's been in our family for 3 generations. Asterisk, Eleanor held it up to the light, examining it closely. You know, you really should keep valuables like this in a safety deposit box. Living alone, you never know who might break in. The way she said it made my skin crawl. I snatched the necklace from her hands and put it back in the box. I'll keep my belongings where I choose. Thank you very much. Asterisk, that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Eleanor's words, about her hands on my grandmother's necklace, about the conversation I'd overheard. I realized I needed to protect myself, but I wasn't sure how. Asterisk, the answer came to me during Sunday service. Reverend Williams was preaching about the parable of the wise and foolish virgins, about being prepared for what's to come. After the service, I approached him. Asterisk, Reverend, I need some advice. Could we speak privately? Asterisk, we went to his office and I told him everything about Eleanor's behavior. About the conversation I'd overheard, about my fears for my future. He listened without judgment, nodding occasionally, his kind eyes full of understanding. Asterisk, Margaret, you're not the first person to face this situation. Unfortunately, elder abuse is more common than people realize. What you need is legal protection. Asterisk, he referred me to a lawyer, Jonathan Hartwell, who specialized in elder law. I made an appointment for the following week, telling Harold I was going to the doctor, which wasn't entirely untrue, as I felt my life was in critical condition. Asterisk, Mr. Hartwell was a gentle man in his 50s who listened to my story with growing concern. Mrs. Rose, what you're describing is a form of elder abuse called financial exploitation. Your daughter-in-law is positioning herself to take control of your assets. Asterisk, but what can I do? Harold is my son. I don't want to destroy my relationship with him. Asterisk, you have several options. First, we can establish a comprehensive estate plan that protects your assets. Second, we can create legal documents that ensure your wishes are followed. And third, we can take steps to document any future attempts at manipulation or coercion. Asterisk, asterisk, I hope you're finding this story as eye-opening, as I did living through it. If you know someone who might benefit from hearing about protecting themselves from family exploitation, please consider subscribing to share these important stories. Asterisk, asterisk, Mr. Hartwell helped me create a new will, one that protected my assets and ensured they would go to people who truly cared about me, not just my money. He also helped me set up a trust and gave me advice on how to document any future incidents. Asterisk, I left his office, feeling empowered for the first time in months. I had a plan, and I was going to implement it. Asterisk, the confrontation came sooner than expected. 3 days later, I returned from running errands to find Eleanor's car in my driveway. I walked into my house and found her in my living room with 2 strangers, a man and a woman in professional attire. Asterisk, Margaret, there you are, Eleanor said with false cheer. I'd like you to meet Dr. Patricia Hensley and Mr. Robert Chen. They're here to help us assess your living situation. Asterisk, I immediately understood what was happening. This was Eleanor's move to have me declared incompetent. My heart raced, but I forced myself to remain calm. Asterisk, I didn't request any assessment, I said firmly. I'd like you all to leave my home immediately. Asterisk, Dr. Hensley stepped forward. Mrs. Rose, your family is concerned about your welfare. We're just here to ensure you're safe and capable of living independently. Asterisk, my family. I looked at Eleanor. Where's Harold? Why isn't my son here if he's so concerned? Asterisk, Eleanor's mask slipped for just a moment. He's at work, but he knows about this visit. Very worried about you, Margaret. We all are. Asterisk, I realized this was my moment of truth. I could either submit to their manipulation or fight back with everything I had. I chose to fight. Asterisk, I want. To see your credentials, I said to Dr. Hensley, I don't want to know who's paying for this assessment. Okay. Asterisk, the doctor looked uncomfortable. Okay. Mrs. Rose, I understand your concerns. But asterisk, answer my questions. I interrupted. Who hired you? Paying your fee? Asterisk, Mr. Chen cleared his throat. Mrs. Rose, your daughter-in-law contacted us. She's concerned about your mental state and your ability to manage your affairs. Asterisk, my daughter-in-law has no legal authority to make decisions about my medical care or my living situation. I'm competent. I'm not under guardianship, and I'm asking. You two leave my home. Asterisk, Eleanor's face turned red. Margaret, don't be difficult. We're trying to help you. Asterisk, help me. I laughed bitterly. Eleanor, I heard you talking to Harold about putting me in Sunset Manor. I heard you planning to take control of my life. This isn't about helping me. It's about getting your hands on my house and my money. Asterisk, the room fell silent. Dr. Hensley and Mr. Chen exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama they'd walked into. Asterisk, Mrs. Rose. Dr. Hensley said carefully, if you're refusing the assessment, we can't force you to participate. You have the right to refuse. Asterisk, I am refusing. I said firmly, please leave my home. Asterisk, after they left, Eleanor turned on me with a fury I'd never seen before. You stupid old woman, do you think we're going? To let you live here alone, falling apart until you die and leave this place to fall down around our ears. Harold deserves better than that. Harold deserves what I choose to give him, I said quietly. And after today, that may be nothing at all. Asterisk, Eleanor's eyes narrowed. You can't cut Harold out of your will. He's your son. He has rights. Asterisk, actually, I can do whatever I want with my property. It's called Freedom, Eleanor. Maybe you should look it up. Asterisk, she stormed out, but I knew this wasn't over. I was right. Asterisk, 2 days later, I woke up to find myself locked out of my own house. I'd gone to get the mail, and when I returned, the locks had been changed. I could see Eleanor through the window, packing my belongings into boxes. Asterisk, I stood in the rain, watching my life being dismantled by someone I'd tried to love like a daughter. But instead of despair, I felt something else. Determination. Eleanor had just made her biggest mistake. Asterisk, I walked to my neighbor's house and called the police. When they arrived, Eleanor claimed she was acting on Harold's behalf, that they were concerned about my safety. She showed them a key to my house, claiming Harold had given it to her. The police were sympathetic but explained that this was a family matter. Since Eleanor had a key and claimed to be acting for my son, they couldn't arrest her for trespassing. However, they did insist that she let me back into my own home. Asterisk, I spent that night in my house, but I knew I couldn't stay there safely. The next morning, I packed a bag and went to stay with my oldest son, William, and his wife, Patricia, in the next town. They were shocked when I told them what had happened. Asterisk, Mother, we had no idea, Patricia said, hugging me tightly. Harold told us you were having some problems, but he never mentioned any of this. Asterisk, he probably doesn't know the full extent of what Eleanor's been doing, I said. Though I wasn't entirely sure I believed that anymore. Asterisk, I stayed with William and Patricia for 2 weeks, during which time I met with Mr. Hartwell to finalize my new estate plan. I also visited my other 2 sons, Michael and David, to tell them what had happened. They were horrified and promised to support me, however. They could. The showdown came when Harold finally called me at William's house. He'd been trying to reach me for days, he said. And Eleanor had told him I'd gone to stay with William after a misunderstanding. Mother, I think we need to talk, Harold said. Can I come over? Yes, I said, but come alone. I won't speak to you if Eleanor is with you. He arrived that evening looking tired and confused. Mother, Eleanor says you accused her of trying to have you committed. She says you're becoming paranoid and suspicious. I'm worried about you. I sat down across from him, my heart breaking for the little boy he'd once been. Harold, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, and I want you to listen carefully. Then I want you to make a choice about what kind of man you want to be. I told him everything about overhearing their conversation about Eleanor going through my jewelry, about the attempted competency assessment, about being locked out of my own home. Harold's face grew paler with each revelation. She said she was just trying to help, he said weakly. She said she was worried about your safety, Harold. Your wife tried to have me declared incompetent so she could take control of my assets. She changed the locks on my house and packed up my belongings. Does that sound like someone who's trying to help? Harold put his head in his hands. I don't know what to believe anymore. Eleanor can be ... persistent, but I never thought she'd do something like this. The question is, what are you going to do about it? He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. What do you want me to do? I want you to be my son, I said simply. I want you to choose your mother over your wife's. I want you to stand up for what's right. If this story is resonating with you and you understand the importance of family loyalty and standing up for what's right, please join our community by subscribing. Together, we can share stories that matter. Harold left that night without giving me an answer. But I got my answer 3 days later when he and Eleanor showed up at William's house together. Eleanor was carrying a bouquet of flowers and wearing her most innocent smile. Margaret. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding, she said sweetly. I was only trying to help. Maybe I went about it the wrong way, but my intentions were good. I looked at Harold, who was standing behind her, avoiding my eyes. In that moment, I knew he'd made his choice. Eleanor, I said calmly, there's been no misunderstanding. You tried to manipulate me, control me, and ultimately steal from me. The only mistake was mine, trusting you in the first place. Mother. Please, Harold said. Can't we work this out? Eleanor's apologized. She's willing to make amends. What amends? I asked. Is she going to give me back my sense of security? Is she going to erase the memory of being locked out of my own home? Is she going to undo the damage she's done to our family? Eleanor's mask slipped again. Margaret, you're being unreasonable. We're family. Families forgive each other. You're right, I said. Families do forgive each other. But first they have to acknowledge what they've done wrong. You acknowledge that you tried to have me committed? You acknowledge that you went through my personal belongings? You acknowledge that you locked me out of my own home. Eleanor's face hardened. I did what I thought was best for everyone. No, Eleanor. You did what you thought was best for Eleanor. I turned to Harold. You have a choice to make, son. You can choose to believe your wife's lies and lose your mother, or you can choose to see the truth and lose your inheritance. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. You will not inherit 1 penny from me as long as you're married to that woman. Harold's face went white. Mother, you don't mean that. I mean every word. I've already changed my will. Eleanor wanted to control my assets. Well, now she'll never see them. My estate will go to your brothers, to my church, to charity, anywhere but to you and your wife. Eleanor stepped forward, her face twisted with rage. You bitter old woman. You can't do this to us. I can and I have, I said. Congratulations, Eleanor. You've played yourself. Asterisk, they left without another word. I didn't hear from Harold for 6 months. Asterisk, during that time. I moved into a lovely senior living community, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I sold my house to my oldest son, William, for a fair price, with the understanding that it would stay in the family. I used the money to travel, to spoil my grandchildren, and to support causes I cared about. Asterisk, I also began volunteering at the local Elder Advocacy Center, helping other seniors who were facing similar situations. I shared my story and the lessons I'd learned about protecting yourself from family financial abuse. Asterisk, the irony wasn't lost on me. Eleanor had been so focused on getting my money that she'd ended up losing everything. She'd simply been kind. If she'd genuinely cared about me, she might have inherited a substantial amount someday. Instead, her greed had cost her everything. Asterisk, Harold finally reached out to me just before Christmas. He came to my apartment alone, looking older and sadder than I'd ever seen him. Asterisk, Mother, I owe you an apology, he said. I should have believed you. I should have stood up for you. Eleanor and I are getting divorced. Asterisk, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. What happened? Asterisk, I started paying attention to how she treated other people. I saw the way she manipulated situations to get what she wanted. I realized that if she could treat you, my mother, that way, she could treat anyone that way, including me. Asterisk, I'm sorry your marriage didn't work out, Harold. Asterisk, I'm not, he said with a bitter laugh. She showed me who she really was. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. Asterisk, we talked for hours that day. Harold apologized repeatedly, and I could see that he was genuinely remorseful. But I also knew that some bridges once burned can never be fully rebuilt. Asterisk, Harold, I forgive you, I said. You're my son, and I love you, but I won't change my will. You made your choice when you stood by Eleanor instead of standing up for me. Actions have consequences. Asterisk, he nodded sadly. I understand. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for it. Asterisk, as the months passed, Harold and I began to rebuild our relationship. He visited regularly, and we slowly began to trust each other again. He never asked about the will, never pressured me to change my mind. He seemed to understand that he was lucky to have his mother's love, even if he wouldn't have her money. Asterisk, Eleanor, on the other hand, didn't give up so easily. He tried several times to contact me, sometimes apologetic, sometimes threatening. She hired a lawyer to contest my will, but Mr. Hartwell had done his job well. My estate plan was ironclad. Asterisk, one day, I received a letter from Eleanor's lawyer, claiming that I'd been unduly influenced by my other sons to change my will. I showed the letter to Mr. Hartwell, who laughed. Asterisk, Mrs. Rose, you have more documentation of your sound mind and clear intentions than any client I've ever had. Eleanor's lawyer is grasping at straws. Asterisk, indeed. Eleanor's legal challenges went nowhere. The courts found no evidence of undue influence or lack of capacity. My will stood as written. Asterisk. 3 years later, I'm still living independently in my senior community. I've made wonderful friends. I volunteer regularly, and I've even started dating a lovely gentleman named Arthur who treats me like a queen. I'm healthier and happier than I've been in years. Asterisk, Harold, and I have a good relationship now. Kay's met someone new, a kind, gentle woman named Sarah, who works as a teacher. She reminds me of myself at that age, and I genuinely like her. I've even hinted that my will might be flexible. If Harold were to marry someone who truly becomes part of our family. Asterisk, as for Eleanor, I heard through the grapevine that she married a wealthy widower within a year of her divorce from Harold. I feel sorry for her new husband, but I suppose everyone has to learn their own lessons. Asterisk, people sometimes ask me if I regret cutting Harold out of my will. The answer is complicated. I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. Eleanor needed to learn that actions have consequences. And Harold needed to learn that loyalty isn't just a word, it's a choice you make every day. Asterisk, my story has a happy ending. But not everyone's does. I've met too many seniors who've been manipulated, controlled, and financially abused by family members. That's why I'm sharing my story to help others recognize the warning signs and protect themselves. Asterisk, if you're an older adult and someone in your family is pressuring you to make financial decisions, questioning your competence, or trying to isolate you from other family members, please seek help. Contact an elder law attorney, talk to your doctor, reach out to your local area agency on aging. You have rights. And you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Asterisk, and if you're a younger person with older family members, remember that? Their money isn't your money, no matter how much you might think you deserve it. Your inheritance is a gift, not a right. Treat your elders with love and respect, not because of what they might leave you, but because of what they've already given you. Asterisk, I locked Eleanor out of my will, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. She locked me out of my own home, but I locked her out of my future. And you know what? Never slept better. Asterisk, the truth is, money can't buy love, but it can sure reveal the lack of it. Eleanor thought she was playing a game she couldn't lose, but she forgot one important thing. I didn't become a wise old woman by being a foolish young one. Asterisk, some might say I was too harsh, but I disagree. I was exactly as harsh as the situation required. And now, at 76, I'm living proof that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to demand respect, and to take control of your own story. Asterisk, Eleanor may have locked me out of my house that day, but she inadvertently unlocked something much more valuable, my determination to live life on my own terms, surrounded by people who love me for who I am, not what I have. And that, my friends, is worth more than any inheritance.